Hi guys and welcome back to Keep Smiling Adventures, and well, I am continuously getting asked one question, whether I'm out on the trails or whether it's in the comments down below, and that is about the handlebars on my bomb track, the Jones H bar. So today I thought I would give my thoughts on this bar. I've been using it now since I got the bomb track, maybe like 6 or 7 months ago. I can't remember how long ago I got that bike, but I've done loads and loads of trips on it using the Jones H bar. I thought in today's video I will give my final thoughts, my opinions on this bar, and just the general stuff that you might want to know if you're thinking about a bar like this. Let's get into it. Now the Jones H bar does come in a variety of different materials and sizes, but the one we are going to be talking about, the one that I use, is the 710mm long H bar. It is designed for a 31.8mm clamp size, and the loop bar is 22.2mm thick with a 45-degree angle of sweep. Like I said, these bars do come in different materials, from titanium to carbon and aluminium. These are the aluminium ones that I'll be talking about. They also come in a 660mm length. So the first thing I want to talk about is that 45-degree sweep. Now, if you are not used to riding bars like this, well, it's quite a different change, because I have always pretty much, for the most part, ridden drop bars and, well, flat bars or riser bars on mountain bikes. So coming from mainly drop bars, riding on hoods and drops, coming to this big sweep was quite a noticeable difference. The first thing to note is obviously your position is way more upright. Now these bars do take a bit of getting used to, especially if you have come from rise bars or just generally any other type of bar. The 45-degree sweep does change the pressure point on your hand, whereas on a drop bar bike, when you're on the hoods, it typically is just on that ball part underneath your thumb, whereas on these it's kind of more on the opposite side of your hand. The more I ride these bars, the less noticeable that comes, and even to the point of now I don't actually experience this. So they do take a bit of getting used to, but that is definitely something you should take into consideration if you are considering getting these bars, is that it does take a bit of getting used to, especially if you've come from drop bars or just like riser bars on a mountain bike. The pressure point changes a bit, and it does just generally take a bit of getting used to. Like I said, these bars do put you in a very upright position, a very comfortable position and a very relaxed position. However, this means your saddle needs to be so much more perfect for you, as your weight is way more on your bum. As on road bikes or more aggressive leaning forward bikes, you're more perching on the saddle, whereas because this lifts your weight backwards over the bike onto the saddle, you really want to make sure, if you're going to use a bar like this, that your saddle is very comfortable for you and you are just generally very much used to that saddle you are riding. Now, every time I haven't ridden the bomb track for a while and need to come back to it, there is always around like a day or just like one ride where I just have to get used to that sort of position again, especially if I've been riding the Sonda and that more of an aggressive position. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. So yeah, make sure you have a comfortable saddle if you are going to use these bars. Now this bar is obviously very distinct. It has this big out front loop to it. And well, what is that loop for? Well, it can be used for a number of things. You can use it for extra hand position. You could wrap it with some bar tape so you could sit on it for long periods of time. However, for me personally, I really like to use this space to attach lights and my bike computer, my GPS. Now, when I'm on this bike, I'm obviously doing off-road, and when I'm barreling down a descent off-road, I need to be able to look as far forward as possible, but I'm also following routes most of the time. So I do need to still be able to see that route on the computer. So having that out so far in front of me means I can still keep an eye on that while riding down these trails. In general, it just gives you way more space, which is absolutely beautiful on a bikepacking trip. The more space, the better. Being able to mount everything up front, away from all your bar bags, is just a really, really nice feature to have while bikepacking. Now, I do want to mention though, that this out front loop part of this bar is only 22.2 millimeters thick. So you're not going to be able to use your Garmin out front mount or your Wahoo out front mount because they're just not designed for that small of a diameter. You could probably bodge it with some rubber strap on there, but it's just generally not going to work. It also applies for other things like lights, so make sure that your light is either like mine, like rubber bands, so they can pretty much go to any sort of size. Another thing I use this sort of section of the bar that I just think is just really great is, especially when you've got a bar roll bag on your bike anyway, this works great with this, is when you're on them day trips and them week trips where the weather just cannot make up its mind. 1 minute you need to put on a rain jacket, 10 minutes time, well, you're taking it off again. And it's kind of annoying to keep putting that back into a bag and then keep taking it out. You can just stuff it between this loop bar and the bar roll bag, and it just works really well. You could also just tie it to it. It's just a really neat way of grabbing stuff that you might just need to keep putting on and off, especially that waterproof jacket. I did that quite a lot towards the last couple of days of the Great North Trail when it was patchy rain, but it was just too warm to continuously ride in a waterproof jacket. So I just kept tying that jacket to that little front bar and then just whipping it off, putting it on without really needing to stop. It's a really nice feature, but do take into consideration that it is quite a thin bar, so putting your accessories and lights and mounts and stuff, you might need to just take note. It's only 22.2 millimeters thick. Now, the great thing about this bar is it obviously gives you a lot of hand positions, which is a crucial thing on any long tour. The more you can move around, the better. This bar, you can obviously use the front loop to sort of tuck up and get out of the wind, which I do occasionally, but it's not really a major thing that I do personally, but it's an option if you wanted it. Now, to get the most of this bar, you are going to want to use very long grips. As you can see on my bike, I'm using these foam ones, and well, they're so cheap. They're like £6-7, and you just cut them to the length that you want. So after you figure out your main position where you want the brakes, just cut them down and they are super perfect. But do note that just using some standard mountain bike grips, they just won't be long enough. So you will be wanting some proper long grips. I really do recommend these foam ones. The only negative side of these sort of foam grips is they do absorb the water when it's raining. So yeah, that's a bit annoying. Now, how do these bars actually feel when on the trails, on the rough stuff? Now, when I'm descending on these bars, I feel in control, fully in control, and I don't feel like it's holding me back in any way. The only thing I will say is on very long descents, I do find that the pressure on my hands, like mentioned before, especially when on the brakes, can become a little bit too much. This isn't too much of a problem for me most of the time, but occasionally on the long climbs, especially when you're in Scotland or Wales coming down from a mountain, when you are heavily on the brakes, maybe I should just let go of the brakes, but it can become a little bit tiring on the hands. That isn't to say that you wouldn't get tired hands on a riser bar or a flat bar, but it is just something to note that you just feel the pressure on that outside palm of your hand. especially when on long descents. But general climbing and just general rough stuff, you feel in control. They are relatively wide, they're 710mm long, and although not long in terms of mountain bike bars, they are perfectly capable and perfectly long enough to give you that stability when on really rough terrain. And I just generally don't feel like I need it to be any longer. Most of the time I'm actually more inboard on them bars, and they just generally hold up really well. So who are these bars actually designed for? Now, Jones literally say everyone. Now, I'm not going to disagree, you could definitely use them on every bike. However, for a full-on out-and-out suspension bike, no, I just wouldn't want them, even if I was touring. However, on a bike packing bike, if you have a bike that is primarily only used for bike packing, then yes, I would definitely highly recommend these bars. However, you might want to take into consideration there are other bars out there with slightly less sweep that may be better suited for your hands, because like I did mention before, it can put a bit of pressure on the outside palm of your hands. It's something I have got used to and now no longer have any issues with that, apart from on very long descents, but it's just something to take note. So these bars would be great on a dedicated bike packing or touring bike, possibly even a commuter bike, especially if you really just need that very upright position. I know not everyone is in a real big hurry to get on their commute and get to work. And possibly, and I think this would be a really good one, is on a shopping bike. If you have a dedicated shopping bike, these bars would just be generally pretty damn good, because they've just got loads of places you could just mount baskets and bags and all sorts of stuff too. So my overall thoughts on these bars. I like them. I really, really like them. I wouldn't have them on every single bike, but for the bomb track it works perfectly. And if you have a dedicated bike packing rig, then I really like having these sweeped bars. Now, they're definitely not for everybody. If your bike packing missions are normally fast and furious, then they're probably not for you. Now, when I am on the bomb track bike packing missions, I am normally taking my time and I'm filming it all for you guys, so I am in no rush. So these bars absolutely suit me down to the T, or should I say H. They have been a solid bar for me. I have fallen off this bike, I have chucked this bike, I have dropped this bike, and they are still holding up really well. No dents, just a few scratches here and there, and they are just very solid. Guys, there we have it. That was a quick look, final thoughts sort of video on the Jones H bar. I'm always getting questions about these bars, so I hope that will answer some of them questions. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, let's keep this channel growing, and I will see you in the next adventure. Keep smiling, enjoy the adventure, peace.